Tell me what the hell are you scared of when in the end the only
Where's the love? Right here on this podcast. Welcome to Love Drops, where your hosts and One Love ambassadors, Charles and Diane, will share love, hope, and inspirational topics taken from their journey and world events. We will also include on-location recordings and special pop-up guests from cool places all around the world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never fails.
Welcome to this edition of Love Drop Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Darlene Cunha with us today. Darlene and I became acquainted on LinkedIn. We were introduced by a dear friend, Valerie, who is the author of To Mom is to Love. And love is going to be the center of our conversation today. So let me tell you a little bit about Darlene. Darlene Cunha is a Caritas coach, is a distinguished healthcare executive with more than 4 decades of experience in nursing and healthcare leadership. She has served in key roles, including Chief Nursing Officer and Chief Operating Officer, where she shaped strategies that improved patient care, strengthened operational performance, and enhanced organizational culture. Grounded in Caritas, a framework of love, compassion, and authentic human caring, Darlene is a certified Caritas leader and coach who mentors and teaches healthcare professionals to create healing environments and to lead with purpose. Today, she partners with leaders to integrate Caritas into practice, fostering resilience, ethical leadership, and systems where love and excellence coexist. Wow. Talk about love. I am going to bring to the mic my One Love ambassador, Charles, to bring Darlene to the stage. So, Charles.
Yes, with that said, wow, what a wealth of knowledge. And I'll leave it there and turn the mic over to Darlene. Darlene, you have the mic.
Thank you kindly for inviting me here today on your podcast. It is such a privilege and an honor to really speak about what's important today. And it's bringing love back, not only into healthcare, but into our lives. And I want to wish you all a beautiful new year as we begin 2026. I really think it is going to be a year of new beginnings, of possibilities, of really helping to shape the healthcare system that we all know can actually transpire. So I'm excited to be here with you and to share what my thoughts are around bringing Caritas back to the bedside, back to our lives, back to this beautiful art of human caring that I think was put on pause, if you will, with the pandemic. And we've got to kind of peel that away. I think of, the Berlin Wall when Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. I want to say, tear down those walls that prevent us from loving each other, that prevent us from bringing compassion and care, not only back to the bedside, but to one another and to ourselves. So that's sort of my mission, is really to put humanity back into this beautiful art of human caring.
I love that. I love that so much. And if we bring it back into the hospital settings, it flows out. If we bring it back into the nursing care, wow, we will see a tremendous turnaround, even with the healing process, not only in the hospital, but when the patients go home, because they are taking that love with them and they're taking it into their healing process. So I love it, Darlene. Before we go any further, you want to tell our listeners where you're coming from today, where you're located.
Yeah, so I grew up the early part of my life in Boston, Massachusetts, but I have settled south of Boston in a college town called Bridgewater. So it's lovely. It's cold right now. It's in the 20s and it's snowy and windy and blustery, but it's New England, right? It's the change of the seasons.
I love the change of the seasons.
And just hearing your voice makes it feel so warm and inviting, comfortable, welcoming, and healing all in one.
I think that's Caritas, Charles. I think that's Caritas speaking.
I think it is.
Yeah. So speaking of Caritas, Darlene, you want to tell our listeners a little bit about Caritas. What is Caritas?
So, Caritas is a framework. It's not a program. It's a set of behaviors. It's how we act. It's how we bring our whole selves into an encounter, right? So I always coach my teams and coach my staff. Pause, take a moment, center yourself before any conversation, even if it's with another colleague. Take a minute to really just be in that moment. And that's what Caritas is. It's about honoring that special encounter, that micro moment, whether it's a micro moment of care or a micro moment of just being present. That's Caritas. When I coach it, I show and act exactly what Caritas is. You approach a nurse's station. Good morning. You wait for someone to respond. How are you today? And mean it. Tell me something good. Tell me 3 things. Tell me something good. Tell me a great moment you had with a colleague or a family member or a patient. Because when you start the day off with something positive, it flows. And when you call it out, think about, I often go back to raising children or even just seeing a child do something loving and kind. We call it out. We say, what a big boy you were. What a great friend. You're a great big brother or sister, right? What does that do to the child? It makes them feel good and they want to repeat it, right? It's affirmation that they're kind, they're loving, they're compassionate, even at that tender age. We don't forget that as adults. We want to be told we're kind and loving and compassionate. And when it's called out, it resonates. We want to do it again. Think of cards you receive in the mail, right? How wonderful it makes you feel. Or that note. I still have notes from mentors and bosses and friends that they've sent me. I have them in my office. And every now and then I reread them and it brings me back to that moment. That's Caritas. It isn't anything extraordinarily, a system that you have to memorize. It's about being a good person.
I love that.
It's just, yeah, and love for yourself too. If you don't take a moment to just pause and reconnect with who you are, then it's hard to connect with others, right? So Caritas is compassion for self as much as it is for others. That's sort of Caritas in a thumbnail.
Wow, it sounds like health within itself.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a love drop. Caritas is a love drop, right? And you just spread it from person to person. And I love how you just connected on a human level with the nurses at the station. I too was in leadership, so I know the importance of that because nurses have a hard job. We were talking about things that went wrong or went to the left, during the pandemic. It was really a tsunami of healthcare. And we are still dealing with the residual, the aftermath. You have a lot of people that feel a lot of ways about the healthcare system. And unfortunately, Darlene, some of it is really valid. They have valid reasons behind what they are feeling. And we're shifting the narrative because we can't go back, but we can go forward. In that shifting of the narrative, I want to just ask you, what is it that patients or people that need to go to the hospital or that have a mistrust for the system, what is it that Caritas can bring into them to help them to shift and pivot and regain trust?
I'm going to share a small micro moment, and I'm going to call it a micro love drop, right? So I love that, Charles, when you said that. So I'm stealing that. I'm going to call it a micro love drop. And I'm going to share something that happened to me personally and my husband, because I think it breeds what Caritas is. So my husband has been acutely ill. He's been dealing with a health condition that has required him to be hospitalized multiple times. And, when you're on the other side of the system, I'm not in leadership. I'm a caregiver, right? But you can't turn off that nursing hat just because you're on the other side of the bed, right? So you're constantly watching. And so I was sitting in my husband's room, who was so scared, and he's squeezing my hand, just so scared on what was going to happen next. And this housekeeper came in and she started singing. And as she's cleaning his room, she's singing. And my husband, whose hobby is music, you could just see sort of the angst fade away, right? And I said, "What are you singing?" And she started to say who the artist was and the song. And my husband started humming. It was one of his favorite artists. And so she said, "I'll be back later." She said, "And well, I'm going to show you one of the dances that we do in my country to this music." And so I thought, oh my gosh, what she just did was Caritas, creating that healing environment. This nurse came in, young nurse, 2 years out of school. We had been talking, and she said to me, Darlene, I was never taught how to do A, B, or C. And I said, well, you're doing it every day. And the love that you bring to my husband is immeasurable. And you have made a difference. You are the healing environment. And she said, no one's ever said I was the healing environment. And she started to cry. And I thought, go back to what I had said at the beginning. We're not telling each other how wonderful they are, the difference that they're making every day. That helps to shape your practice, just as those trying moments did during the pandemic, or maybe, when you witnessed a death and how hard that was on your heart and your soul. We need to support one another, call it out, love each other through it. Love each other through it, right? And so it dawned on me, and it happened to be during Nurses Week. And it dawned on me that we needed to call out these micro moments of care, these micro love drops. So my husband and I started taking notes. And every time we saw something beautiful, we called it out. And I put together this beautiful wall hanging of the 10 Caritas processes on one side and how they lived it on the other. And it was a gift to the nurses for Nurses Week, and it still hangs on that unit to this day. And the reason why I wanted to do that was to remind them every day that they're making a difference, even when they don't think that their presence was that important, or that they made a change or created that caring moment that gave that patient hope, that gave that patient compassion,
Yes.
that gave that patient an opportunity to ask questions. That's Caritas. Talk about love drops. They're all around us. We just have to witness them and call them out.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love how you just put it in action. It's more than words. I get it, Darlene. I get it now that Caritas is more than words, it's action. And actually, the action is how we pass it. We pass it through our actions, and our actions is a love. And so, as we are pivoting, I love your stories. And you shared with us via email a story. It was Jacob's story, I believe. And I was wondering if you could share that with our listeners.
Yeah, there were a couple of stories, but Jacob was one, Gus was the other. And Gus was the patient that really changed my practice. He was the patient nobody wanted, the cantankerous, shouting gentleman who was not kind. And, I will tell you, when I opened the door and he shouted, I scooted back out so fast, and all the nurses were laughing, going, see, and I thought, you got this, Darlene, you can do this. And I went back in, and over the course of a couple of weeks, what I found was that this gentleman was scared. That was his defense. He was estranged from the only family he had, which was his sister. And he needed those micro moments of love and care gently intertwined throughout our stay with him. And when I gave him time to be silent, and when I held his hand, when I gave him space, it's when he opened up. And we were able to reunite him with his sister before he passed. So that's Caritas. Caritas is finding that space to allow the patient time to come into that healing environment, because we don't know the weight of sorrow that they carry. We don't know why they're acting the way they act. But I do know that people don't get up and say, I'm not going to be kind today. There's stresses in their life. And so we, as caregivers, as human beings, need to take that moment to find that micro moment of love and to extend it.
That gives me chill bumps. And let me tell you, on all my years of nursing, I've had some gusses, okay? And here's the thing that I've learned: when we say yes to love, when we go into those medical facilities and say, use me as your vessel of love, you're going to get more gusses than those happy, chatty people. You're going to get more gusses because it's the gusses that need the Caritas the most. It's the gusses. And just that story brings chills. And it also brings life to what you are speaking. Because in the end, not only did you give him love, you showed him love, and you returned him to love with his sister before he departed. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Whew.
Oh, wow. And it's such a reward when you can see the blending of these personalities towards a common goal of love. And it all comes generically, mind, body, and spirit, without even going into it. It's all there in love.
In love. So, Darlene, I am sure, I am absolutely sure that our listeners want to know, A, is there anything that you're offering? Do you have any books out there? We have your website that we're going to put in the narrative. But what if I'm a listener and I'm like, oh my goodness, I need her in my life. I would like her to, speak to me and see if we align and we can shine together with her being my coach. Tell them the best way to reach you.
So I am in the process of actually writing a book. I haven't finished it yet. So I'm getting there. As you know,
Awesome.
it is a process. You've written a couple, so it takes a heartbeat to get
Yes.
that done, especially with life all around you. So that will be forthcoming. They can reach me right now on LinkedIn. I do have my contact information there. I have lots of materials on that particular platform where I speak Caritas. There's all kinds of materials that they can reference there. And I'm happy to reach out to anyone that contacts me that wants more information around Caritas. And in parting, I will tell you, my life's work is really around building systems that honor humanity. And when we take a moment to really pause before every encounter, to really set that intention of love, you bring the spirit of that encounter forward for both you and the person you're with. That's Caritas.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yes, I felt that.
I
I
did
felt
also.
that. And you mentioned the pause several times in our discussion. So Charles and I, unbeknownst, have been practicing Caritas for such a long time. And even when I released my book, we put in a little framework: pause, love, reset, right? And so that definitely brings you into a space, aligns you in love, gives you that clarity to move on and move forward. Darlene, I thank you so much for your time. It is non-refundable. I invite our listeners to contact and get in touch with Darlene. Is there an email address or something other than LinkedIn for our listeners that may not, be connected on that platform? Is there another means?
Yeah, in my contact information on LinkedIn is my personal email. So they
Okay.
can reach me right through that personal email.
Okay, I will put that also in our narrative. And if you have felt the Caritas in this conversation, I invite you to reach out to Darlene, not only to learn more of her gems, but invite her to be a part of something that you are doing, a love work that you're doing, whether it's a podcast, whether it's speaking to nurses, whatever it may be. She has such an amazing heart and spirit to carry the love. So we asked you to just reach out and connect with Darlene. And we thank you. If this has resonated, we just really ask you to share the love. If you haven't, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast. And we thank you for your time. And Charles?
I wanted to say that, Darlene, you are truly an example that love never fails.
Thank you. Such a
Yes.
pleasure to be here.
It's a
And a pleasure to have you. And until next time, we say to our listeners, one love.
Never a second will I waste. Never an opportunity to taste the sweetness of this life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Love Drops podcast.
Follow the challenge.
Be sure to follow this podcast and share the love with everyone you know. Until next time, this is Charles and Diane signing off. One love.
Love it conquers all, whether big or small. Love never fails. Love it conquers all. Love never fails.